All right, welcome back to the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Coaster GMC tweet of the night. This from the PGA Tour. Going low all season, Scottie Scheffler records the 7th best season scoring average of all time. Right behind, guess who? Tiger Woods, who did it 6 times. You know, I want to take a moment here, Chris, and talk a little bit about we are the last show on the Pittsburgh CW before we make the switch over to KDKA Plus. It's an honor to do this show with you, the final show on Pittsburgh CW.
Richie, you'll notice that I was thinking of Ricky Fowler because he had golf on the brain, but you'll notice that I wore something new tonight inspired by Dippin' Dots for our last night on the CW before it's KDKA Plus. Can you imagine, by the way, you put up that Scottie Scheffler graphic, can you imagine what his scoring average would have been if he could actually putt by tour standards? The guy was losing, it felt like 2 strokes around to the field in putting, and yet he hits the ball so well that he averages a 68. He hit the ball tee to green probably better than anybody since, like 2000 Tiger? He just literally cannot putt the golf ball relative to his peers. It's wild how good he is in spite of that.
Yeah, doesn't miss fairways, doesn't miss greens. He's a guy that's always up there in contention. All right, by the way, my daughters love Dippin' Dots. I'll have to get them that shirt, Chris. All right, let's go to Raphael in Fox Chapel. How you doing, Raphael?
Hey, guys. Rich, Chris, thanks for having me on the show, guys.
No problem.
I just wanted to say I agree with you guys wholeheartedly on the leadership skills that Kenny Pickett has. I truly believe that finally we have our best players with Hayward, Micah Fitzpatrick, and T.J. Watt. On the other side, Najee Harris and Pickett. You truly have your best players are your biggest leaders. And if you traditionally look at teams that are like that, they usually do very well. Whereas 5 years ago, Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown, not good leaders at all. And like Chris had mentioned, Ben was very cliquish. He had his O-line, and that was it. So I think with this year, I think we're as good as the Bengals and one notch below the Chiefs. But I have high hopes. I think if Pickett can stay healthy, I see maybe 10, 11 wins, and maybe even a divisional win in the playoffs. But I just want to say thank you guys for a great show and having me on.
Thanks a lot, Raphael. I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, they're definitely a notch below Kansas City. Patrick Mahomes is just, he can win games by himself. I don't know if Kenny Pickett can do that. But here's what I'm worried about. And, I hate to be the pessimist here, Chris, but I worry about not enough balls, especially for a guy like George Pickens. I could see this guy being disgruntled at some point, even though he's saying all the right things right now. But what if they only throw to him twice a game here for a 2 or 3 game stretch?
If they only throw to him twice a game for 1 game, let alone a 2 or 3 game stretch, he has every right to go and do like like an old pro wrestler would against all the bad guys, like bang Kenny's head, Matt Canada's head, and Mike Tomlin's head together like he's bonking coconuts and stuff, and get it through their thick skulls that they need to throw him the ball. He should get bare minimum 8 to 10 targets a game, even if the game plan of the opposing defense is to take him away, which it will be because he's the best playmaker on the roster and one of the handful of best in the NFL. He needs to get the ball. You don't say, they took George Pickens away from us. You find ways to force feed George Pickens the ball because good things happen when you do that. To the tune of Kenny Pickett, I think being like Patrick Mahomes level as far as passer rating when he targeted Pickens last year. I want to say the number was 109 on targets to George Pickens. That is all the justification you need to gin up any which way you can to get that man the football.
Yeah, I mean, I could see him, maybe Najee Harris being potentially disgruntled if they don't get off to the right start. That's the only thing that kind of really concerns me. Not enough balls. I mean, they have unselfish players. I think Pat Freiermuth is very unselfish and very talented. I think Deontay Johnson, he's not as outspoken as maybe a George Pickens, but obviously he wants the ball too. I agree with you 100%. They need to get the ball to George Pickens, but if you can't, I could see him being the guy that is the storyline for a couple weeks.
Well, I would just make it clear, maybe, and he won't get any sympathy from people if he's grousing. If he's grousing and they're winning, but he's not getting the ball, he'll get less sympathy because people want everyone to be singing Kumbaya when the team is winning. But if he's griping that he's not getting the ball and they're losing and their offense is getting silenced, again, I will say the problem isn't George Pickens being mad. The problem is the guys not getting him the ball being incompetent. I want to make that very clear. Like, Antonio Brown was a big headache, especially after he left the Steelers. But every time he said they should be throwing me the ball even more, he was correct because he was the best receiver in the entire NFL.
Yeah, and Ben forced him the ball, and I don't mind that. I hope Kenny forces him the ball, and if it results in, an interception here and there, oh well. I think more than not, the plays are going to happen for the Steelers than the other way if you're just trying to throw up the ball to George Pickens. I'll bet on George Pickens 9 out of 10 times against any cornerback in the NFL.
Richie, let me throw something else at you. Let me offer something in response to Raphael's call there, too. They are not just a notch, 2 notches below the Chiefs. I want to continue to try to be the only maybe voice of reason in town. I think they can win 10 games. I actually think 11-6 is in play for them, too. I think their schedule at the start is a little harder than people think. But they're a notch below Cincinnati. Like, I feel like I'm just in a fever dream right now where everybody is so bullish and understandably excited because Pickett looked so sharp and in command that everyone is just jumping them right over the rest of the division, including the Bengals. They have probably the deepest roster, 2-53. But quarterbacks make the league go round. And when you add in the quarterback position, they still have depth at that one, too, with Trubisky and Rudolph. But Joe Burrow is way ahead right now, of everybody else in the division. So this idea that they are even Stevens with the Bengals, I just don't buy it. It won't stun me if the Steelers win the division, but this notion that almost anything less than that is a huge disappointment completely undersells the team that's won it for the last 2 years and the quarterback that is definitely a top 2 guy in the league along with Mahomes.
All right, we got to take a break. Back with more of your phone calls coming up next. Stay right there.